The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. Insight Pitch with Skip Lockwood. I'm Ralph Tycho with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and once a week I am privileged to have the opportunity to pick this man's brain. Skip Lockwood, what's going on, my friend?
Ralph, how are you? I am doing well. We have a spectacular fall day here in New Hampshire. It's cool, it's windy, the leaves are just starting to change, and I was up in Booth Bay Harbor this last weekend at a book signing and also a golf tournament that had some basketball players and some hockey players, and just a spectacular part of the world. Booth Bay Harbor is just a pristine harbor. If you wanted to paint something from Maine and paint that harbor, and the sunsets and everything was just a storybook. It was just wonderful. That's absolutely
Boy, I have so many friends. I grew up on the East Coast. I have so many friends from the East Coast, and so now I'm out in the West Coast. Our sunsets are what we have going, and so few people just appreciate that kind of art. It is art, and it's beautiful. You're blessed. I'm blessed. Great part of the country. Could you live in the Midwest if you had to?
Well, I lived in Milwaukee for a couple of seasons.
But you were kind of indentured, if you will.
Well, I didn't have to stay there in the winter, and stayed there in the winter.
Oh, you did?
I love the Midwest. I love the, coast of New Hampshire is kind of a rugged, rocky coast, except there's about 10 miles of really flat, hard beach. And we live close to the beach area, so we get to walk the beach and see the rocks and everything. It's quite different than the Florida beaches and the Carolina beaches and that, but it is. In the summertime, this is a great spot to be. The wintertime, it's a little chilly, but the summertime is pretty good.
Yeah, well, when you say a little chilly, you're understating it by quite a bit, and I wonder, because we're both septatorians or whatever the hell we are in our 70s. I'm living in some mild climate, and I wonder how the physical part of it, how hard it is for you as we get older. Is living in that climate in the winter hard for you? You're not doing any unnecessary, snow removal and stuff like that, because that could be unhealthy. But in general, do you find that the climate is hard on your health?
Well, I think people that live in the north want to tell you, and they will tell you, that the separate climates, separate seasons are good. The wintertime kills the bugs that are in the air and the flus and all that stuff. I don't do a lot of snow stuff. I have kids in the neighborhood that'll do that. But it's cold, and when you go out, it's sometimes dangerous. So I have a tendency to do a lot of reading and do some writing. I intend to do a lot of writing this winter. And I'll leave in December and head down south, and then come back for my mother's birthday in May 15th. So I'll head down there for a couple of months. And
that's good that you get a relief from it, as it were.
I do.
Good. You mentioned you'll do a lot of reading. One of the questions I wanted to ask you today, and that I'm curious about, what did you read as a kid growing up, as a teenager being formed? What were some of the books that you read?
Well, we had to read a lot. In high school, we had to read in the summer. And the first test in English class was a summer reading. And so we read, all the 70s kind of novels. I really, you won't believe this, but I really enjoyed reading Ayn Rand and her works. And she wrote some, The Fountainhead, and the different ways that she would phrase things I thought were I kind of fall in love with the phraseology of sentences and the way words play out. And Atlas Shrugged was something that
Yes.
I loved. And these were required readings, but they stuck with me. So what I like to do is try to go back and reread some of these books, the classic books. And not that I'll pick it up and get halfway through it and stuff like that. But
what did you read recreationally beyond what was required at school?
The Boston Globe. I didn't read very many books that I didn't really have to. There was too many things. Sports was taking up a lot of my time, and school was certainly important. So I didn't do, a lot of recreational reading.
Okay, and I'm going to ask you, what music affected you? What did you really like?
Well, we're both flower children, coming out of the 60s and the 70s. I still listen to, the 70s station on XM here. All the Eagles and all that stuff.
Right, the Doobie Brothers. Actually, the Eagles and Doobie Brothers did a concert here in Oakland this week at the Coliseum after one of the games. So
they did. Wow,
yeah.
That was great.
Yeah, those
should have
people
told me. I would have come out.
In my heart. As does the Beatles, and I was playing a song this morning, "Come Together" by the Beatles, which we damn sure better come together as a country pretty soon, or things are going to get out of hand.
I agree. Up in Booth Bay, one of the guys that I know very well is a famous Red Sox pitcher, Bill Lee. Bill is the spaceman. Bill is like a Kardashian. He's famous for being famous. Wasn't a great pitcher, but kind of a softer kind of pitcher. Got inducted to the Red Sox Hall of Fame here in Boston. Very famous in the Eastern area. Crazy character. I just love him to pieces. He's got a wine business now, and he makes his own bats, and he's quite a personality. He's still pitching at age 72, plays in the league and pitches, and just got back from Cuba. Was teaching baseball down in Cuba.
Was he down with Mark Littell in Cuba? Does he go down?
He just got back last week, so I'm not sure if he was with Mark Littell. A good thing to do with Bill Lee is that everything you hear divide by 3. So he was telling me that he read a book about, and I'm going to pick this book up if I can at the library, about Vietnam, and the book is called The Things We Carry. And Bill was very taken by this book on Vietnam. I'm going to try to get it. And he also liked my book, and it was talking about mine, actually from the podium at the dinner, which was very kind of him.
Oh, wow.
But the book is called The Things We Carry. And Bill said it's a deep, interesting book that goes inside the soldiers and beyond the war and transcends a few things that we wouldn't necessarily talk about. So I'm recommending that to you. I'm going to read it also, just to see what it's like. Bill's a kind of guy that when he stops you and mentions something to you, it's probably a good thing to listen.
Well, as are you, by the way, and that you pick up on that is important. I was forced to join the Air Force to stay out of the draft because I wasn't a matriculator. And I managed to stay out of Vietnam. I spent my entire time at Travis Air Force Base. And about 30 years after getting out, it's been about 50 now, I'm hitting balls against the tennis wall, which is, for me, a terrific way to just be by myself and meditate and all of those things. And it hit me, a wave of guilt came over me. I mean, I served reluctantly, and I didn't do very much but stay out of Vietnam when I was at Travis Air Force Base.
Yeah.
But a wave of guilt came over me that was unbelievable. And I realized that I do feel for those who weren't as fortunate, who went over. My friend Mert went over and was affected by Agent Orange. I have other friends that went over, people, not real close friends, but people on the wall who I grew up with. And so I'll bet that book refers to what we carry as a country, guilt for sending over young kids to fight wars of congressmen and senators. Their kids didn't go over there. They were sending kids, and it was horrible. People that didn't live through that don't realize how that broke up families, and it was. Do you know of anybody who experienced anything along those lines? So
for sure. For
you.
sure, we all do.
Yeah.
We all do. My son-in-law has been in Iraq twice, in Afghanistan, in the Army, and he's going back over to Afghanistan as a civilian contractor this year. He was in war. I was in the Air National Guard. You were in the Air Guard too.
You went to Lackland, in other words.
I was in Milwaukee at Mitchell Air Force Base. Mitchell is a refueling base. So I was there.
Where did you take
Milwaukee.
basic training anywhere?
Yeah, I did basic at Fort Dix for the Army, and then Devens for my AIT, and then I transferred into the Air National Guard just because Mitchell Field was the place where I was playing. I was with Milwaukee. I met the guy that ran the CO, and he said, come on over here, and you won't have to go back to Boston every month to do your drills. So
great idea, and the uniforms were nicer too.
Yeah, all Class A uniforms. I had to sweep out the simulator, so they had a very nice simulator. I kept it clean. That was my job.
Okay, better than Latrine Queen. They used to have a job.
Right.
Am I right?
Yeah.
Keep out of the latrine if you possibly can. Don't volunteer for anything. And basically keep your mouth shut and go along to get along. You're a ball player, not a soldier.
That's right. And I knew I wasn't going to have to go to Vietnam when I was in basic training, so it was good to not go over there.
All right. But like I say, it was a horrible experience. Bring Bill Lee on as a guest sometime. Tell him that he and I have a mutual friend in Scott Russell, and he'd be a great guest for you to bring on your your illustrious...
I'd love to do it. Let me get a hold of him this week and see if I can figure out where he is. I think he was heading to California today. He looked exhausted. He's traveling around a bit. He does promotions, and I think he's selling some wine and making appearances at supermarkets and wine stores.
And tell him that we can do it at you guys' convenience. It doesn't have to be at the set time that you and I have. I'm very flexible about that.
Okay.
Okay.
I will. I'll ask him.
Good. And I will ask you the final question before we get on to our topic that I wanted to ask you. Because this is radio and I'm such a radio nut, what did you listen to when you were growing up?
Well, we were limited. I mean, we had rabbit ear with transistor radios, and we certainly didn't have the available. There was a radio station in Boston that I listened to, and I don't remember the call letters, but they had rock and roll music. I listened to the Beatles back then. It was so new. Elvis Presley had come out, and all the English groups were coming over here to play the Ed Sullivan Show and all of that.
Right.
Everything was changing. I'm sure my mom and dad were dead set against it, and here I was, growing my hair a little longer, and it was.
So that military career took care of that.
Oh yeah, that's right. It certainly did. It certainly did. What were you listening to?
Well, I was listening to Motown a lot, and of course the Beatles and the Stones, and good, incredible era of music. Incredible. We had a lot of top 40 going on when I was a kid, and as I got older and a teenager, I'd listen to late night radio. There was a fellow by the name of Long John Nebel who had a discussion radio show, basically what I modeled Comfortably Zoned Radio Network out of. He'd just have panels of people talking different topics, celebrities, authors, athletes, whatever. And what sticks out in my mind was Madeline Murray, the atheist, and they'd have discussions about religion, different religions, and what have you, lack of religion. I learned terms like agnostic. It was my education because I was sleeping through high school. I wasn't learning anything because I knew it wasn't important. I was getting my English from my reading. I'd read books, so I did well in English. I realized the other subjects weren't important. I'd sleep through them and stay up all night getting my education on the radio. And there was also a fellow named Gene Shepard who did a syndicated show out of New York. I don't think it was syndicated in those days. It was WOR. And Shep was the fellow who wrote The Christmas Story.
Wow.
But he was also a very, very wonderful storyteller. He passed very early, but he was tremendous. And I got a lot of Midwestern. He came from the Midwest, and he tells stories about growing up in the Midwest. So I got a lot out of that, and that's what I listened to.
Yeah, when I was coming along and pitching in the early years in Milwaukee, we had groups like the Creedence Clearwater Revival, CCR.
Oh, absolutely.
And I used to love that beat of that music, and I had headphones that connected to the. We had these big players back then that would play the 45s and play the 33s even, but play those big vinyl records. And I enjoyed,
and that song about the brown-eyed handsome man was going on. It was before they were playing music in stadiums. You didn't have a walk-up song. When you came into pitch, there wasn't a song. If you pitched in today's day and age, there would be a song for you that you'd get.
They did have a song for me.
What song would it be?
Well, my nickname with the Mets was Jaws, and it didn't have anything to do with sharks. And they used to play the shark theme song, that dun 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 dun, when I used to come in to pitch.
Oh, I didn't realize in your day they had a.
They had a song, yeah.
They had. Oh, wow. Now you may be one of the first. You're definitely one of the first, but you may be the first reliever with a song. You ever think about that? That could be.
Well, I'm going to look that up.
Yeah, Google that. Seriously.
We'll Google that.
That could go. Wow. That's your homework, young man, till we come back next week, right?
Okay, I will look for it. I will try to find it.
Okay, let's talk about our topic which anybody who ever played ball, anybody who ever lived life, anybody who ever played golf, you're a golfer, Tiger Woods, holy Toledo, huh? 5 years, hanging on 79. All of a sudden, he's got 80. He choked up.
Yeah. I mean, I think the people watching are so mesmerized with people that can make a comeback. And Tiger had a slow and agonizing comeback the last 5 or 6 years, and it was every possible thing that could go wrong did. Socially and financially. And, his game had deteriorated, multiple back surgeries. Names splashed all over the paper for doing bad things, and it just was a catastrophe. And you'd think that you'd never hear of him again. He had enough money, he could probably go someplace and hide, but he didn't. He stuck around. He tried to make a comeback. Every year he would try to come back and play, and his body just wouldn't allow him to do it. And he looked, terrible. He looked downtrodden. He was trying to play golf, through a lot of pain and emotional distress. You could see it. It was aging him. And he was able to come back and play well this year. I don't know exactly what triggered all of that. I think he felt healthy. And he always believed in himself and his ability. And the other players on the PGA Tour, if you watched any of that yesterday, they stuck around. And they were on the sidelines, shaking his hand and giving him a hug when he came off, because I think the other players can recognize how difficult that is to.
And they also recognize how much his publicity means to them. Wow, that was nice.
But he certainly raised the bar.
Throngs, I'm watching the throngs of people running towards him at the end. Yeah. It was like a World Series victory.
Well, it reminds me of the old Arnold Palmer, when they used to mob Arnold on the last hole, and he had to break out of the crowd, to make his approach to the last green. It was the same way. They had thousands of people, and I think there was, 4 police officers trying to keep thousands of people back. There's just no way to do it.
Right.
I think it was moving, and I think it helps. Not that golf needs help, but it's one of those games that, for those of us that play it has captured a lot of our attention, and I certainly practice and play in the wintertime. But to see a guy like that come back and play so well, I think it was very exciting. Very, very exciting.
Speaking of golf in the wintertime, when it's cold, do you have places with cages, indoor cages? Like when I was a kid, we had McBurney Y that I went to.
Yeah.
So you do. You can stroke and hit.
Yeah. They've got a simulator, the course that I belong to across the street over here, called Breakfast Hill. Breakfast Hill Golf Course is famous because there was an Indian battle there with the settlers, whenever that was, and they were eating breakfast, and the Indians attacked and overwhelmed them, and there was a massacre. And now there's a rock with a painted sign on the rock, the Breakfast Hill.
Ooh.
And this is a very, very nice golf course with a lot of wonderful guys over there, and gals too, that I have the privilege of playing at. But they have simulators for the winter, so you put a little bit of money down, and you can get yourself a cold beverage and play golf right there, even though it's snowing outside.
Okay. Got to ask you, you're tutoring your grandson in the ways of baseball. Will you encourage him to have off baseball season sports? Does he play basketball, or what are his wants and needs?
He's 6, and he watches the games with me at night on the TV, and he's learned a lot. This year was a pivotal year for him because he got a Little League uniform and a hat, and then he sleeps with his glove, and he knows the players now, the Red Sox players, knows the game a little bit. He knows on the television where the score is and the outs and stuff like that.
Does Grandpa still sleep with his glove? I'm just curious.
I have my gloves right here.
I have mine too.
I do.
Okay.
It's right here. I don't sleep with it anymore, but
I know.
If I needed it, if I had to get to it, I could.
And you're gripping a baseball wherever you go. I could always, when I think about you, what's Skip doing? Where is he? If he's driving,
I have a baseball with me when I drive.
Right.
I always have a baseball there. It's always around. It reminds me. It's something you can put into your hand, and it brings back feelings. It's a marker, a psychological marker. You put it back in your hand, and I don't think I get goosebumps anymore, but it certainly does feel better than the steering wheel some days when I'm driving.
And that feeling of putting one's hand in a baseball glove and feeling that soft leather, can't describe it. It's beautiful. The combination of ball, if you smack your ball and you just into the glove, and you're just walking around with the glove and the ball. That being a little kid, I think it was Roy Campanella that says, it's a man's game, but you got to have a lot of little boy in you. So
yeah. When I spoke 2 weeks ago at the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, asked me to come out and speak, as you know, about my book, I brought my glove with me.
Oh,
and
nice.
When I was speaking, I passed the glove out, and everybody got a chance to. It's not soft leather anymore; it's a little crusty, but it's the glove that I pitched with for most of my career. And,
wow!
You
called it your gamer.
My gamer. It was a gamer.
Now,
that's for sure.
You're unusual that you let others put their hands in your gamer. I've talked to a lot of ball players, and remember I was the Topps minor league guy with the $5 check in the 80s and 90s. So I saw a lot of ball players and how they were protective of that gamer. Says a lot about you that you share that those whatever they are. I can't think of the word, but it's almost baseball vibes.
Yeah. Well, they're getting to be artifacts now. I think they're going to. It's going to be something they put in the coffin with me. The game is played today at such a high level, and there's so much separation between the players and the fans. Money does a big job on all of us, and I don't. My generation didn't have that. I got out of the game poor, and the things that matter to me, I try to share. The stories that were important to me, I share those stories. I was going to bring my first win, baseball that I still have. I was going to bring that out, and I forgot to bring it out. So it was just poor memory. But I brought the glove, and I also have so you can appreciate this, I had a bat contract. So as an infielder with Hilliers and Bradsby,
right.
I had a signature bat because I was an infielder. And as a pitcher, if I ordered one of those bats, they wouldn't send me a bat that said pitcher in capital letters on it. They'd send me a bat that had my autograph on it, Skip Lockwood. And I am the only.
I didn't realize they did that with pitchers, that they wouldn't give them a signature bat. That's very interesting. Because maybe your next book can be on pitchers who have hit, who have, Don Newcombs, the Bob Turleys, pinch hitters, and Bob Lemon, for instance. And I think of you when I think of the story. Came up as an outfielder. He was the regular center fielder in like 1946 for the Cleveland Indians, 46 or 47, and becomes a Hall of Fame pitcher. So I think of you when I think of his career, and to think that as a pitcher he wouldn't get the honor of having that signature. That's cool. Did they always renew your bats that way all through your career?
Yeah. I think even today, if I wanted to get a bat, they would have that somewhere in the archive, and they would. I think they'd get it out for me.
Right, and so that you must remember there's a special number on that bat that, and if you went to Hillary and Bradley or whatever it is in Kentucky, they can take you to, they have a history of all those who use that bat with that number. Am I correct? I know that I have a Campy bat, Bert Campanera's bat that he signed for me, and it's C271. And he explained that to me in broken English 30 years ago. But am I pretty close on that?
I think the bats that I used were big. I mean, at the time I was trying to become a hitter, we were trying to use the heaviest and longest bat possible. It was always the theory that you would use the biggest bat you were capable of handling comfortably. And I don't think that's a good theory at all. And I think that changed Bobby Bonds. I think there's a lot of guys that changed that theory, and now it's different. I think they use much lighter bats. It's different material. It's not aluminum; they're all wood, but I think there's a lot of different places where they make the bat. The number on the butt end of the bat of my bat was K55. And I don't think that was the order number that you would reorder it for. That was just the shape of it. I don't remember having an order number for it or anything like that.
Now, did you ever adjust the shape of your bat over the order, maybe bigger handle bat or whatever, as your, or lighter bats as you got older? Or did you
Well,
always go with the same bat?
I completely failed as a hitter early in my career. So I didn't get a chance to have.
Completely failed. You were a major leaguer.
I tried.
There is nobody at the major league level, and I might add, at the professional level, and you could say anybody who tries out, there's no failure. That's they talk about, because if you fail 70% of the time in baseball, you could be a Hall of Famer. That type of thing. But too much is made of failing, but comes with the competition thing, which keeps it interesting. But
the only point, just before we hang up, the only point I was trying to make when you and I were talking off air about Tiger Woods is I think a lot of young players experience failure before they ever, taste any success. And maybe it's the wrong sport they're playing. Maybe they're getting the wrong instructions. Maybe they haven't gotten mature enough. Maybe it's a girl trying to play a boys' game and she's getting rejected. Maybe it's a pickup game at school and they're not asking you to play, and you have to sit out, and you'd really rather be playing tag, with the kids. Sports baseball comes with a lot of rejection and a lot of failure, and it doesn't necessarily have to be your failure. It's what you think in your mind. If you can keep the vision in your mind alive of what you want to do, and talk to yourself and keep on saying positive things to yourself, you don't have to have failures that close the book on things that you love to do. If you love to do it and you want to continue to try, even though you're not doing it at a level that you want, sometimes something magic will happen. Something you'll talk to somebody, you'll see somebody do it well, and you can copy what they're doing, and it changes you. I think when Tiger won yesterday, it was a guy that believed in himself, and players who believe in themselves have such a big advantage, such a better way of approaching everything, sports and school and business, and the belief in what you're doing and the conviction to follow through on the things that are true. You don't get blown around by people saying one thing or another, or people that make fun of you, or people that say you can't do it. You don't get blown around with those accusations. You keep your focus and you keep on trying. At least when Tiger won yesterday, I remembered, players that I played with that were playing through extreme difficulties and came out the other end and were able to play again and play well. I was an infielder that became a starting pitcher, that became a relief pitcher. And those are three separate careers. If you look at baseball, those are individual sports almost, as baseball goes. And always believing and always pushing forward and not taking no for an answer was part of the solution for me.
Yeah. And just being a world-class athlete in three different levels gives you that confidence for the rest of your life too.
It does.
So one breeds, you couldn't have done it without confidence, but you become confident too. It's almost a circle.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Well said.
I had to get one thing right. It's a long day. Thank you, Skip. And,
I'm glad we talked today, Ralph. It's good to hear from you.
I'm always glad I
do some homework.
Okay, right. You got that homework. Number one, and I'll give you I'll put it on record in case it never was. Now pitching Skip Lockwood. It was 38, but it didn't come to me until late. It was 38, am I correct?
It absolutely was. 38.
All right, but I missed that. Now pitching number 37 and a half.
Yeah, right.
Thank you, sir.
Israeli,
if you pitch it in Israel, it'd be 37.95. I'm Jewish, I could say that. Love you, my friend. Be well. Talk to you next week. All right.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening, everybody. This has been a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.